Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Navnita Adhikari and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of the major development of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Moscow bans British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other senior ministers from entering Russia over UK's hostile stance on its military operation in Ukraine. Prime Minister of Mauritius Pravin Kumar Jagannath to be on an 8-day visit to India from Sunday to 24th of April. India to export wheat to Egypt following disruption of supply from Russia and Ukraine. Pakistan's new ruling alliance takes control of lower house of parliament with election of a new speaker. In Afghanistan, at least 30 civilians killed after Pakistani Air Force aircraft launched airstrikes on Khost and Kunar provinces. Top Indian swimmer Sajan Prakash wins men's 200-meter butterfly gold at Danish Open swimming meet in Copenhagen. Vedant Madhavan bagged silver in men's 1500-meter freestyle event. And in IPL cricket, Lucknow Super Giants beat Mumbai Indians by 18 runs. In another match, Royal Challengers Bangalore set a victory target of 190 runs before Delhi Capitals in Mumbai. Prime Minister of Mauritius Pravin Kumar Jagannath will be on 8-day visit to India from Sunday to 24th of April. Mr. Jagannath, who will be visiting India at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will be accompanied by his spouse Kobita Jagannath and a high-level delegation. The visiting dignitary will participate in the groundbreaking ceremony of the WHO Global Center for Traditional Medicine in Jamnagar on 19th April and the Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Summit in Gandhinagar on 20th April, along with Prime Minister of India. Apart from official engagements in Gujarat and New Delhi, the Prime Minister of Mauritius will also visit Varanasi during the visit.
Russia has banned British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other senior ministers from entering Russia over the UK's hostile stance on its military operation in Ukraine. UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace and 10 other senior politicians, mostly members of the cabinet, have also been barred. A report.
Moscow said the decision had been made in retaliation to the UK's sanctions against it since its military operation in Ukraine. In March, Moscow imposed a similar ban against US President Joe Biden. In a statement, Russia's foreign ministry said the British leadership is deliberately aggravating the situation around Ukraine by pumping the Kyiv regime with lethal weapons and coordinating similar efforts on the part of NATO. Russia on Friday expelled 18 European Union diplomats in retaliation for Brussels' decision to declare 19 Russians personae non gratae earlier this month. The EU on 5th of this month said the 19 Russian diplomats had been engaging in activities contrary to their diplomatic status and ordered them to leave Belgium. Russia's foreign ministry said in its statement that it had summoned EU ambassador to Russia Markus Ederer and handed him a note of protest. The Russian ministry said the Russian side declared that the EU is responsible for the consistent destruction of the architecture of bilateral dialogue and cooperation that had taken decades to form. The ministry added the EU diplomats must leave Russia as soon as possible. In a statement, the EU mission to Russia said it regretted what it called an unfounded move. Reshma Tiwari for World News, All India Radio.
India's Commerce Ministry is having discussions with various export promotion councils before setting up targets of export for the financial year 2020-23. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal held detailed discussions with textile, chemical, plastic, pharma and gems and jewellery sector export promotion councils in Mumbai on Friday. In a tweet, Mr. Goyal said he had a fruitful interaction with various exporters in Mumbai for planning for the year. They discussed ways to build further on strong export growth momentum and make Indian products benchmark of quality globally, ushering India as a global leader as we head into Amrit Kal. The Commerce Minister also discussed export-related issues with missions in Australia, South Korea, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Nepal, UAE, Singapore and Hong Kong. Mr. Goyal said in the last financial year, India had set export target of $400 billion after discussion with the stakeholders and they have successfully crossed that target. The minister informed that in financial year 2021-22, India's export increased by 43% than previous year.
Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has announced that India will export wheat to Egypt this year. Egypt is one of the world's biggest importers of wheat. Agricultural and Processed Food Products Exports Development Authority Chairman M. Agamattu said they are aiming to export 3 million tons of wheat to Egypt this year. Egypt imported 6.1 million tons of wheat in 2021 and India was not part of the list of accredited countries which could export wheat to Egypt. More than 80% of Egypt's wheat imports, estimated to be close to $2 billion in 2021, were from Russia and Ukraine. During visit to Dubai last month, Mr. Goyal had also met Egypt's Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala El Said, and discussed India's readiness to supply high-quality wheat towards ensuring Egypt's food security. Officials from Agriculture, Quarantine and Pest Risk Analysis of Egypt visited various processing units, port facilities and farms in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab. The Egyptian delegation's visit to India follows several trade talks and meetings with various wheat importing countries which are exploring possibilities of sourcing grain from alternate sources as supplies have been disrupted because of Russia and Ukraine conflict. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday talked with General Secretary of Communist Party of Vietnam Nguyen Phu Trong over phone. The two leaders complimented each other on the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Vietnam being celebrated this year. They expressed satisfaction over the rapid pace of wide-ranging cooperation under the India-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which was established during the Prime Minister's visit to Vietnam in 2016. Prime Minister Modi reiterated Vietnam's importance as an important pillar of India's Act East policy and Indo-Pacific vision. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on India, Vietnam and Asean relations. In conversation are Anil Wadhwa, former diplomat, and Sanjay Jha, journalist.
India is working to build closer relations with CLMV, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam countries within the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Asean region, particularly concentrating on infrastructure development and connectivity between India and CLMV countries. Vietnam is the most important partner for India in this region. India and Vietnam are thought to have a special relationship built upon a shared history and common interest. Waves of peaceful cultural migration from India and the discovery of new land and sea routes shape the ties. Does the modern relationship owe itself to history? Ambassador Wadhwa, how do you rate India and Vietnam relationship in context of our Look East policy?
So I think in the context of our Act East policy, Vietnam is actually key. And one of the key countries, along with countries like, I would rate Singapore as a country which, for example, made us actually join hands with ASEAN in the first place. And then, strategically important countries like Indonesia. But you're right that in the sense that since India wants to strengthen our relationship with the CMLB countries, Vietnam has played a key role as far as standing up to China in the South China Sea is concerned in the current circumstances, leading the ASEAN charge for a fair and equitable code of conduct in the South China Sea, and has also always cooperated with India in variety of fields. Most importantly, recently, in terms of defense cooperation, for instance, and also as far as India is concerned, we have, you rightly pointed out, civilizational links. So India is also restoring the Cham civilization at the moment in Vietnam. So all in all, it's a very comprehensive, very important relationship that India has with Vietnam in the context of our Act East policy.
And Mr. Modi had a telephonic conversation with General Secretary of Communist Party of Vietnam, Mr. Trong. Two leaders spoke about bilateral ties, and PM Modi emphasized that how important is Vietnam from India's Act East policy. Prime Minister reiterated Vietnam's strategic position, as we have seen that China is increasing its presence in that area. So India becomes very important player as well there. Our trade relationship is not much. And Prime Minister Modi sought to enhance the scope of bilateral relationship besides working for expeditious progress on existing initiatives. What are the areas in which we see two countries having a comprehensive strategic partnership?
So I would say there is much scope for our bilateral economic and investment relationship, first of all. As you rightly pointed out, we need to do much more in that area. And our trade in 2020-21 was about $12.3 billion, which is perhaps on the highest that we have reached, but still not enough. And as far as investments are concerned, India is now looking very actively for investments in Vietnam, especially in the light of the free trade agreements that Vietnam has entered into. So Indian industry, especially over the last couple of years, has ramped up its investments. And now we have $1.9 billion invested in Vietnam in diverse fields like energy and agro-processing, sugar and tea, coffee manufacturing, agrochemicals, IT and auto components. Whereas the Vietnamese investment into India has only been about $28.5 million as of 2020, mainly in pharmaceuticals and IT, chemicals and building materials. So that's why we need to pay more attention. Secondly, we now have a very active exploration of investments from India by Adani Green and Suzlon Energy, who are both exploring some very big projects. In terms of our investments in the oil and gas sector, the 2006 investment by ONGC Videsh has not yielded any results so far, but they've already got the 7th extension, possibly because of the fact that their presence is strategically important due to the South China Sea dispute that Vietnam has with the Chinese. But at the same time, we've had a find by SR Oil and Eni, their partner from Italy, in 2019. And this company is now looking to invest almost $11 billion into Vietnam. That is, of course, in waters which are not disputed. So we do not have that strategic angle to it. But at the same time, from the investment point of view, I think that will be a very important investment. The third issue where we should look for more investments and bilateral cooperation is in terms of collaborations in defense and in space. Now, as far as defense is concerned, India is already training Vietnamese personnel as far as on submarines. We are also paying regular visits into Vietnamese ports. There is already a contract which has been signed for supplying BrahMos missiles. The radars which have been installed on the Vietnamese coastline are extremely important as far as monitoring of activities in the South China Sea are concerned. And at the same time, in space, we've set up a very important tracking station in Vietnam which went online in 2018 and is now connected to the one in Indonesia and in Brunei, and that supplies real-time information on maritime domain awareness. Much more needs to be done in this field. There is a lot of scope there, and the Vietnamese are looking forward to collaboration with India much more in defense and space as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the Vietnam and India has been working on defense partnership, and India has a strong Navy-to-Navy cooperation with Vietnam, and is one of the only few countries with which Vietnam conducts naval exercises. Hanoi allows Indian Navy to dock in ports going beyond Halong Bay, which India had asked to develop, and camp runway. So we see, India and Vietnamese are working quite closely in terms of defense, but there is obviously need and scope for more expansion into that. Under 100 million line of credit provided by Indian government, a high-speed guard boat manufacturing project has also been launched for the Vietnam Border Guard Commander. India had handed over the first boat during 2020 virtual summit with Prime Minister Modi and Pope, So, and 2 more Indian manufactured boats have been launched and 7 more will be built in Vietnam. We see such cooperation, which is a response to China's grey zone expansionism in South China Sea, and that directly impinges on Vietnam and Indian interest. But I think we were talking about the trade relationships. The Prime Minister Modi has requested for greater facilitation for market access for India's pharma and agri products in Vietnam. What do you think is holding back in having more Indian, pharmacy and agri products in Vietnamese market?
So this has been a long-standing grouse that Indian businessmen have had in Vietnam because there is a very difficult situation which persists in terms of Indian IT companies making headway in getting some market access there. But more importantly, it's in the agricultural sector where Indian, investments are not really reaching the stage that they should in coffee and tea and sugar, for instance, because of certain restrictions that the Vietnamese place on foreign investors in this regard. The other issue is that setting up a joint venture or even a wholly owned manufacturing facility in Vietnam in these fields requires not only the central but also the federal level approvals. Many times these are delayed inordinately over long periods of time, and then there are a lot of land disputes which arise because the records in certain cases are not very clear. So we've been asking the Vietnamese authorities to set up a special window as far as the Indian investors in this field are concerned, so that the Indian investments can go through much more speedily. The other issue is about auto components, and here again there are restrictions which are placed because of the fact that Vietnam does not want other countries to set up shop and to take away their own market, which they feel they have gathered because of their accession into free trade agreements with other countries. And that's one of the reasons why many other countries are also investing in Vietnam. In fact, investment in Vietnam has become the most important plank for a number of countries in Southeast Asia, including Japan, because of their relationship across the world. But market access remains a problem. We also have a lot of barriers which are put on agricultural trade, which India would like to see removed as soon as possible.
India has given continuous support to Vietnam starting from the days of Champa Kingdom through the colonial, post-colonial, Cold War and post-Cold War phases, including the much recent Act East Asia policy. In fact, recently, India has been involved in restoration of Cham Mountains in Vietnam. So culturally, how much these, activities will bring Vietnam towards us, because we see mostly Vietnamese are close to Chinese. I mean, they find probably some sort of, connections with them than India. So you think our help to them and these kind of activities will play a key role between two countries?
Absolutely, because Cham civilization is a very old civilization which with historical links to India, and the structures over there directly bear an imprint of the Indian architecture, and that also proves the fact that India at one point in time had very important linkages with the whole of Southeast Asia, and that includes countries like Indonesia, like Cambodia, like Laos and Malaysia. And the civilization of Cham in Vietnam has actually been lost to the current generation for a number of centuries because it was in ruins till India stepped in and offered to restore it. Currently, Indian teams are working in Cham and are doing a very good job. As far as India is concerned, the historic linkages are extremely important, where the Indian scholars, for example, have written a lot about Cham civilization, and the linkages that this will create between India and Vietnam in the future are enormous. So quite obviously, for a long period of time, the reign by Chinese dynasties in Vietnam, that has held sway, but the discovery of Cham and restoration will bring the linkages of India forward, and in the future it will play a much bigger role. There will also be Cham studies which will be initiated in a number of institutes, at least in India, and the Vietnamese are also planning to ramp up these studies and to understand more about their own civilization and these linkages with India.
Ambassador Wadhwa, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Pakistan's new ruling alliance took control of the lower house of the parliament on Saturday with the election of a new speaker. With this, new ruling alliance cemented control of the National Assembly after former Prime Minister Imran Khan was ousted in a no-confidence vote. The previous speaker and his deputy, both Imran Khan allies, had attempted to block and delay the vote, but the country's Supreme Court intervened and ordered a vote. The lower house of the parliament eventually voted in favour of removing Mr. Khan from office on last Sunday. The new ruling alliance has already elected their candidate, Shahbaz Sharif, as the new Prime Minister. The new speaker is Raja Pervez Ashraf, a former Prime Minister who belongs to the Pakistan People's Party (PPP), part of the new ruling alliance. He was elected unopposed in the absence of Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, which resigned en masse from the House on Monday. If the resignations are accepted, Pakistan faces the prospect of close to 100 by-elections within 2 months, a major distraction for Shahbaz Sharif and his coalition partners and a potential platform for Imran Khan to mobilize support. In Afghanistan, at least 30 civilians were killed after Pakistani Air Force aircraft launched airstrikes on Khost and Kunar provinces on Friday night. Local officials in Afghanistan confirmed that Pakistani aircraft launched airstrike on the Khost province. As per reports, at least 30 people, including women and children, were killed. At least 26 Pakistani planes targeted the villages of Mirpar, Mamdeh, Shaidi and Kai in the Spura district of Khost province. Spokesperson for Taliban police in Khost province, Mustaghafar Gerbs, confirmed the attack.
Twitter's board of directors has adopted a limited-term shareholder rights plan called a poison pill that could make it harder for richest man of the world, Elon Musk, to acquire the social media company. The move would allow existing Twitter shareholders, except for Musk, the chief of Tesla, to buy additional shares at a discount, thereby diluting Musk's stake in the company and making it harder for him to corral a majority of shareholder votes in favor of the acquisition. The move will prevent anyone from having more than a 15% stake in the company. Musk currently owns around 9% of Twitter's shares. The Twitter board detailed its defense plan to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and put out a statement saying it was needed because of Musk's unsolicited, non-binding proposal to acquire Twitter. The Tesla and SpaceX CEO has offered to acquire all the shares in Twitter he does not own for $54.20 per share, valuing the company at $41.4 billion. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled a 108-feet statue of Lord Hanuman in Morbi, Gujarat via video conferencing on the occasion of Hanuman Jayanti on Saturday. Greetings the devotees on the occasion. The Prime Minister said that dedication of Lord Hanuman's statue is a happy occasion for the devotees of all over the world. Mr. Modi said Hanumanji is a key thread of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. The Prime Minister said that the project of establishing 4 such statues in the 4 corners of the country is a reflection of the resolve of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat.
India's President Ramnath Kovind and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu have greeted people of the nation, especially from Christian community living in India and abroad on the eve of Easter. In a message, President Kovind said, Easter inspires all people to follow the path of love, sacrifice and forgiveness. He urged people to learn from the life of Jesus Christ and work together for the betterment of the entire humanity. In his message, the Vice President said, Easter reminds people that love is stronger than hatred and that virtue will always win over evil. He urged the people to celebrate Easter by being compassionate towards all human beings. Top Indian swimmer Sajjan Prakash won the men's 200-meter butterfly gold and Vedant Madhavan bagged silver medal in the men's 1500-meter freestyle event at the Danish Open swimming meet in Copenhagen, Denmark. Competing in his first international meet this year, Prakash topped the clock at 1.592.27 to stand atop the podium Friday night. Earlier, the swimmer from Kerala had clocked 2.03.67 in the heat to qualify for the A final. However, Friday's performance was not even close to the 28-year-old's personal best timing of 1:56.38 that came last year in Rome, when Prakash became the first Indian swimmer to breach the Olympic A standard time. 16-year-old Vedant Madhavan, who is the son of actor R. Madhavan, clocked 15.57.86 to finish second in the 10-swimmer final.
In IPL cricket, Royal Challengers Bangalore have set a victory target of 190 runs before Delhi Capitals at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Royal Challengers Bangalore scored 189 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in 20 overs. In reply, Delhi Capitals were 112 for 4 in 14.1 overs when reports last came in. Earlier, Delhi won the toss and elected to field first. In another match, Lucknow Super Giants defeated Mumbai Indians by 18 runs at Brabant Stadium in Mumbai. Chasing the victory target of 200 runs set by Lucknow Super Giants, Mumbai Indians managed to score only 181 runs for 9 wickets in stipulated 20 overs. Earlier put into bat first, Lucknow Super Giants posted 199 for 4 in 20 overs.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Let us take a look at the press reports on China. CNN reports at least 44 Chinese cities are under either a full or partial COVID lockdown as authorities persist in trying to curb the spread of the highly transmissible Omicron variant, according to a report from investment bank Nomura. The Guardian reports a top Huawei executive has broken ranks to warn that China's stringent zero-COVID policy may trigger massive losses for the tech industry, putting the country's economy as well as the global supply chain at greater risk. Reuters writes China said it conducted military drills around Taiwan on Friday as a U.S. congressional delegation visited the island in a move the People's Liberation Army said was intended to target the wrong signal sent by the United States. SCMP reports China warns of Ukraine-style tragedy for Asia in U.S. Indo-Pacific plan. Economic Times writes China is trying to create a hydro-hegemony to dominate the water economy and ecology in the South and Southeast Asia by pursuing a series of mega dam projects over rivers in Tibet, a media report said.
Now let's have a look at the press report on Balochistan. The Nation writes that Balochistan Chief Minister Abdul Qudus Bizenzo has said that the provincial government has decided to declare Gwadar and Kench districts calamity-hit areas and issued directives for the Chief Secretary to take steps in this regard. The National Herald writes that senior leader of the Balochistan Freedom Movement, Professor Naila Qadri Baloch, has said that a government of Balochistan in exile has been established on March 21st. She is in exile in Canada.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Pakistan. The Dawn, in its editorial, quotes Pakistan's DG ISPR Major General Babar Iftikhar as saying that the security apparatus does not believe there is any imminent threat to national security or credible evidence of an international conspiracy through which Mr. Imran Khan was ousted. The Daily Times says that Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif on Friday accused PTI chairman and former Prime Minister Imran Khan of selling gifts they received during foreign visits. The Pakistan Today writes that the 7 soldiers of the Pakistan Army were killed as terrorists ambushed a military convoy near Pak-Afghan border area in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's North Waziristan district.
Now let's have a look at the press reports on Nepal. The Annapurna Express writes that Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and a team led by Netra Bikram Chand-led Communist Party of Nepal held a meeting on Wednesday. During the meeting, they discussed the implementation of a 3-point agreement signed between the government and the Communist Party of Nepal and the local level elections slated for May 13th. The Kathmandu Post reports that inflation is soaring, hitting everyone but in different ways. The Himalayan Times writes that Nepal is running low on foreign currency reserves needed to import medicines, oil products, cars and a range of other items and will run out in 7 months if things don't improve, a central bank official said on Friday. Headlines. A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister of Mauritius Pravin Kumar Jagannath to be on an 8-day visit to India from Sunday to 24th of April. Moscow bans British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other senior ministers from entering Russia over UK's hostile stance on its military operation in Ukraine. India to export wheat to Egypt following disruption of supply from Russia and Ukraine. Pakistan's new ruling alliance takes control of lower house of parliament with election of a new speaker. In Afghanistan, at least 30 civilians killed after Pakistani Air Force aircraft launched airstrikes on Khost and Kunar provinces. Top Indian swimmer Sarjan Prakash wins men's 200-meter butterfly gold at Danish Open swimming meet in Copenhagen. Vedant Madhavan bagged silver in men's 1500-meter freestyle event. And in IPL cricket, Lucknow Super Giants beat Mumbai Indians by 18 runs. In another match, Royal Challengers Bangalore set a victory target of 190 runs before Delhi Capitals in Mumbai. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Denmark. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time